Thanks, everybody, for joining me today. My name is Brian Davis with AccuPlan Benefit Services. Today, we're going to talk about investing in real estate in your IRA or 401k. I'm extremely excited to have Adam Dorn of Make It Move Properties join us today. So just a little housekeeping before we get started. There's a lot of people on the call today that are logging in right now. So if you have any questions, please feel free to write them in the chat box or with the question section. I'll try to get to those at the end. We should have plenty of time. We are recording this presentation, so if anybody missed part of this or would like to look at it again in the future, provide it for somebody else, please contact me afterwards, as I will have a recording available for you. I will be talking about 15 to 20 minutes about the self-directed IRA on an educational basis, and we'll turn it over to Adam, and he can talk about some turnkey properties in different parts of the country that might be some good investments for a self-directed IRA. So without further ado, as long as my PowerPoint was working on me here, I'm going to get rolling. So again, I already mentioned I'm Brian Davis with AccuPlan. A little disclaimer before I move forward. AccuPlan, we're a third-party administrator. We are not financial advisors and can't endorse any investment products or give any financial advice. So please contact your financial professionals, attorneys, accountants, CPAs, and financial advisors before entering into any type of investment. So now that I got the fun legal disclaimers out of the way, talk a little bit about myself. My name is Brian Davis. I am the Director of Business Development for AccuPlan here in San Diego, California. I know we have an audience from across the country, so that's where I'm physically located. I can work with anybody across the United States and even outside the United States, as long as they have some U.S. retirement funds. My background, my parents are rice farmers up in the Sacramento Valley area, and after growing up in that environment, I just moved to Southern California and went to college at UC Santa Barbara. And after graduating UC Santa Barbara in 2001, shortly thereafter I moved to San Diego. I was a loan officer for 5+ years, and the middle to end of 2007, that kind of crashed down. I think most of you might have noticed that. I was in a builder division, and builder went away, subprime went away, and after a year or two of toiling around doing life insurance and health insurance, I came across a self-directed IRA field, and I've been in it since 2009, and it's really exciting. I've opened up about 1,000 IRA accounts during that time, and solo 401ks included in that number, and have helped many people invest their retirement accounts in a variety of different aspects. And today we're going to focus on real estate. Now, a little bit about AccuPlan. We are a third-party administrator, so we help administer individual retirement plans, so IRAs, whether it be traditional SEP, Roth IRAs, solo 401ks, we do the administration of that. And we have our sister company, American Estate and Trust, which is a trust company, which is what allows us to be an IRA custodian. So getting going here, talk to a lot of people. I meet with a lot of attorneys and CPAs, and they seem to have a little bit of knowledge about this field, but not too much. Financial planners, they know a little bit about this field, but not too much. And the reason for that kind of goes back to the history of the IRA. The IRA came from the ERISA Act passed by Congress in the early 70s. And it stated you had to have an IRA custodian to administer your retirement plan investments. Well, the custodians are generally the brokerage houses, banks, and insurance companies. Those custodians specialize in securitized assets, namely stocks, bonds, mutual fund, annuities. They have some other investments, but generally it's publicly traded investments. They make their money off transactions, and that's where the money's made. Well, trust companies and what us self-directed IRA custodians, we allow people to invest in everything allowable under those guidelines that were put forth in ERISA. So all the IRS guidelines allow a much wider variety of investment. we take a non-fiduciary role, which basically means a self-directed IRA, the investment choices are in the hands of the client. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. At the end of 2010, there was just under $5 trillion in IRA funds. Only about 2% is in a truly self-directed IRA vehicle like an IRA with AXA plan. This number is starting to grow. Last year when Mitt Romney was running for president, it came out of his financials that he had a self-directed IRA worth somewhere upwards of $100 million. So that brought a bit of attention to the industry. And with the internet age and people just not fully trusting the stock market, it's a growing industry. So that 2% number from latest numbers I've heard is growing to closer to 4%. So it's growing and people are finding out about it. Well, what are they investing in? What I'm seeing mostly is people investing in real estate, investing in private notes and loans, investing in private businesses, and precious metals. I personally aren't seeing the precious metals client too much. I'm mostly seeing the other three, but I know that's a very big part of the industry. I'm sure a lot of you have seen maybe those late night ads of, buy gold in your IRA or something like that, and that's exactly what we do as well, but my main focus has been on real estate. Again, there's a huge variety of choices that you have when investing in your IRA. So you can invest in limited liability companies, foreign companies, properties in different parts of the world, oil and gas, notes, private places. The list goes on and on and on. There's never been a list of acceptable investments by the IRS, really of what's not acceptable. And there's really only two things that they outline that the IRA can't invest in, and that is life insurance contracts and what they deem as a collectible. And this list here is kind of the main list of collectibles out there: work of art, drug collections, metals or gems, alcoholic beverages, anything illegal. And you can see there's even some exceptions with certain coins and metals. You'll also hear that S corps aren't allowed. The IRAs aren't allowed to invest in S corps, and that was a rule created by S corps. They don't allow IRAs to be members. So I've seen many people loan money to S corps out of their IRA. So it's just really a matter of how you structure a deal. But IRAs aren't allowed to be members of S corps. So those are the three things your IRA can't invest in. I make it sound so simple. I can invest in just about anything, but there are some rules we want to look at. So there are what's called prohibited transactions. So besides those three things your IRA can't invest in, there's some types of transactions your IRA can't get involved in. And a prohibited transaction is when your IRA gets involved with a disqualified person. So I know I'm using a lot of jargon here: prohibited transaction, disqualified person. So let's break it down. Who's a disqualified person? And all of this can be found in the tax code, in Internal Revenue Code 4975. And that breaks down who's a disqualified person and what's a prohibited transaction. And I'm going to go over some of the main highlights here. The big thing about the IRA is they don't allow for self-dealing. So you can't loan yourself money. You can't buy property from yourself that you currently own. And besides yourself, there's a distinction of who else is disqualified. And you want to think about this in a vertical line up and down. So yourself, your spouse, your parents, your grandparents, kids and their spouses, grandkids and their spouses can't receive any personal benefit from the retirement accounts. Brothers, sisters, aunts, and uncles, generally okay unless they fall under some other system in there. But this is the main thing I want to talk about today, are making sure you don't have any self-dealing. So you can't buy a property, rent it out to your college-age kid. You can't buy a property, use it as a vacation home. So it really has to be a passive investment. So it's a new investment your IRA is making on a new property that doesn't involve your family. So let's get a little bit more in depth here. If the IRS, who is the police in this matter, were to audit your financials, go through your IRA investments, and see that you got involved with this qualified person, they can disqualify that whole IRA that you used. So that can be huge. So you really want to make sure you know those rules. I'm here to help with that as much as I can. If I can't answer your questions, I can at least let your other financial professionals know where to look in the tax code to look at that. So let's look at it a different way. Try to bring the point home here, so to speak. Hope everybody remembers the game show Deal or No Deal that used to be on TV. So this works a little bit better with the live audience, but I'll go ahead and play along here anyway. So can your IRA lend yourself $10,000? Deal or no deal? The answer to that one is no deal. That's self-dealing. You can't lend yourself money out of your IRA. What about your brother? Can my IRA lend my brother $10,000? Deal or no deal? That one's deal. He doesn't fall in that straight up and down category. He's kind of side to side here. So I know this can get a little confusing. Let's take this a step further. Can your IRA lend your stepson $10,000? Deal or no deal? That one's deal. Apparently stepchildren are okay. If that was your son, that would be a no deal for sure. And what about your daughter-in-law? Can your IRA lend your daughter-in-law $10,000? Deal or no deal? This one's no deal, but your children and their spouses. So it gets complex, so try to get as versed up on it as you can. Listening into these educational seminars and webinars that I put on are one good way to start, and there's a lot of information out on the net and some other information that I can provide. So let's look at the next part of it. How do I get a self-directed IRA? How do I put money into a self-directed IRA? Well, as I mentioned, self-directed IRA is really just a marketing term. We have the same types of IRAs, and we have the solo 401k, just as all the brokerage houses do and insurance companies. So how do we put money in one of those? Well, if you have another IRA, we'll do what's called a trustee-to-trustee transfer. We'll move the cash funds from the other retirement plan over to our IRA, which allows more flexibility and more control, as you know. If you have an employer plan like a 401k, 403b, 457 plan, you want to do what's called a direct rollover. So you want to direct your plan administrator to roll those funds over to the new IRA that you create with us. Question I get a lot of times here, well, what about my current retirement plan? Can I roll over those funds? The answer to that is maybe. Depending on what type of plan, whether it's a pension plan or a 401k, they might allow what's called an in-service rollover. So meaning that they'll allow you while you're still in the plan, still working there, to roll over some of the funds to an IRA. But a lot of the times, your retirement funds are stuck in that retirement plan while you're still working there and a participant in that plan. But these are all questions you can ask your plan administrator. The third and final option is making an annual contribution. Most people fall in line and most likely have a W-2 job, and they can have a traditional and or Roth IRA. You can contribute up to $5,500 a year in these types of plans. If you're over the age of 50, they let you throw in an extra $1,000, so $6,500. There's some income restrictions on that, and I can help point you in the direction depending on your specific situation. Then we get into some more employer plans. A SEP plan is a self-employed pension, and this is for a self-employed individual and his employees. The self-employed person can contribute up to 25% of their adjusted gross income into the plan with a cap at $51,000. The SEP plan works just like a traditional IRA, where it's a pre-tax plan, meaning you can write off your contribution to the plan. Unlike the Roth IRA plan, which is what's called a post-tax plan. What that means is you're not able to write off the contributions to the plan, but those funds grow tax-free because you've already paid taxes on the contributions made to the plan. And that's different from the pre-tax plans like the qualified plans, the traditional IRA, the SEP IRA, where you get the write-off going in, or if it came out of your paycheck you weren't taxed on it at the time. When you pull those funds out of retirement, that's going to count against you as earned income. So that's what we call tax-deferred growth. So you're not being taxed on it as you put money in and it grows, but when you start pulling it out, you'll get taxed on it. So with the Roth IRA, you pay taxes up front, and you don't have to pay taxes at the end. So you see a lot of people, they do what's called a conversion, and they convert those pre-tax dollars to the Roth and let it grow tax-free depending on their retirement account. Then we also get a simple IRA, which I see sometimes. It's very similar to a 401k plan, where a company can put together a simple plan. Its employees can take some funds out of their pay on a pre-tax basis, and the company will match a little bit. The contribution limits are much smaller. The cap is $12,000 a year, where the 401k plan is up to $51,000 a year. And if you're over 50, it could be possibly $56,500. And that depends on how much income you make and how much the company matches. And then we get to a part of a 401k plan that we have is for individuals that are self-employed with no W-2 employees. It's called an individual K, or here it's called a solo K, a solo 401k. It's all the same thing. Essentially, it's a provision of 401k where if you're self-employed and have no employees, you can have your own 401k plan. And just like a company 401k, you can make contributions as employee and employer. So people that are eligible for this could be a sole proprietor. It could be somebody that's just self-employed and they've incorporated. Maybe they're an LLC or a C Corp or an S Corp. And that's what I see mostly, generally, is the S Corps and C Corps, but I do have sole proprietors that have this plan. And there's some benefits that the 401k plan has that an IRA does not. So I'll get into that in a second. One part of the IRA that I do want to talk about a little bit is the checkbook IRA that many of you might have heard of. Checkbook IRA allows you the ultimate control over your retirement plan. So through this structure, and there's two different methods of the structure, your IRA essentially buys an entity that you as the IRA owner have control of. And the method that is mostly seen out there is the LLC model. And with the LLC model, how that works is your IRA becomes the sole member of the LLC. Since it's a sole member, that makes it a pass-through entity so that there's no federal return since there's only one member. However, LLCs are state instruments, so they must pay state taxes in whatever state they're doing business in. And in California, that's $800 a year plus a gross receipts tax. There's also the business trust, which is gaining popularity, and it's a vehicle which I actually use. And it works very similarly to the LLC model. You can make direct investments without having to go through the custodian, so the IRA becomes the beneficial owner, the beneficiary owner of the trust. The IRA owner becomes the trustee of the trust. Similarly to the LLC, it's a single-member pass-through entity, so there's no federal tax return that has to be filed. And since it's a federal instrument, not a state instrument, you don't have to worry about paying those state taxes in there. So if anybody has any further questions on this, I can provide them much more information on the business trust. Check out retirementcheckbook.com for more information. So moving back to the solo 401k, these plans are, again, for those self-employed, and they're what's called self-trustee plans. You are the plan administrator. You are everything to the plan. So you can have checkbook control of the 401k right away. So you can adopt our 401k plan to your corporation or just to yourself if you're a sole proprietor, and then go make direct investments. A lot of people still will create an LLC or a trust and then make investments from there just for some ease of transaction, but it's not necessary. So whether you have an LLC or a C Corp, it really kind of doesn't matter because you're the plan trustee. Create the 401k. You can roll over other pre-tax retirement funds into the plan and then make contributions from there. So as I mentioned, you can make contributions as employee and employer. You're allowed to make the employee contributions on a post-tax basis or a Roth basis. So that's something that's also a benefit. You can contribute up to $17,500 a year of Roth funds to this thing, depending on how much income you have. And if you're over 50, that's up to $23,000. But you want to be careful. You know, you can't have any W-2 employees. And as soon as you really do get a W-2 employee, you have to close down the plan, move those funds over, and assets over to an IRA. Again, if anybody has any questions about this, letting me know. Some of the benefits of the 401k, if you're purchasing real estate and you're using leverage, what that means is getting a loan, your 401k plan isn't subject to a tax called UBIT tax or UDFI, which if anybody has any specific questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. You can also loan yourself money. As a plan participant to a 401k plan, you can loan yourself money up to $50,000. So that's another benefit to the plan. You can loan yourself some personal funds, and then you pay back your own retirement plan. So you're really paying yourself back. So that's something that's a big benefit to that. But most people fall into the IRA process where we make it very simple. You can open up your IRA in minutes online. Then we work on funding the account, and that's really the longest part of the process. It can take anywhere from a couple days to a few weeks, depending on what IRA custodian you're with, how liquid the funds are, and how quickly that custodian will move the funds. So that part of the process is very important, of getting the money moved over, because when you want to fund an investment, you generally need to do it quick. And we're very fast, 24 to 40 hour turnaround time on a transaction if all the documentation is correct. So again, you're not limited to just investing in real estate. And that's my part of the presentation. I might have went a little longer than normal, so I hope everybody is okay with that. And again, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to put them in the question box or the chat box. We'll get to them at the end of the presentation. And now I'm going to move it over to Adam. Adam, are you there?
I am.
All right, so bear with us, folks, as we move this stuff over. And again, we are recording this, so if anybody missed maybe a part of it, feel free to email me or call me, and I'll be able to send you a link, sometime later today. So, Adam, I see your screen.
Yes, I'm ready to go.
I can hear you, and let me know if you have any questions for me.
Thanks, Brian. And you said you can see my screen, yes?
Yes.
Good deal. All right, so I'm excited to talk with everybody about investing in real estate with your SDIRA or self-directed 401k, as Brian covered. And the cool part about it is because, as it says there on the screen, with your self-directed IRA, you choose. You get to choose what kind of investments you're going to make. And I heard Brian endorse real estate as one of those alternative investments when you have a truly self-directed account. And I'm a subscriber to using real estate as a wealth building tool as well. That's why I do it myself, and that's why I'm talking to you about it today. Before I get any further on the real estate itself, I just want you to know who's talking to you today and give you a little bit of background about me. I'm an 11-year police officer in Kansas. I live in the Kansas City metro area. Back in 2011, I got sick and tired of working really, really hard and not making a lot of money. And you've probably heard the term among entrepreneurs and investors, sick and tired of being sick and tired. That was me in 2011. And I thought to myself, what am I going to do to increase my income? How am I going to change things? And real estate was the answer that came to me. So I founded my company, Make It Move Properties, LLC. And I went around the country attending seminars. I got some one-on-one coaching in real estate, did a bunch of webinars. I learned everything I could, bought a bunch of books, and just plugged into the game of real estate and started doing deals. And like most people who start in real estate, I started at the lowest levels doing bird dogging both buyers and sellers, and wholesaling, assignments of contract. I messed around with tax liens and deeds for a little while, and that's definitely a tool that I've enjoyed using and look forward to doing more of those. And now I'm doing buy and holds with creative financing, where we're building our own portfolio here in Kansas City. A friend and partner of mine in another business entity, we're buying and holding in Kansas City with the goal of going nationwide. To date, I've done deals in Pennsylvania, Michigan, North Carolina, Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, and Tennessee, just to give you an idea. So my network does span across the country, and we're adding to that list hopefully monthly. We should be adding Georgia and Texas soon. So that's some of the background as far as me personally and in business. And just so you understand a little bit about my business, which is Make It Move Properties, we connect investors with quality off-market turnkey residential properties, and that enables the investor to enjoy immediate equity and monthly income, to build wealth, to maximize your tax advantages, hedge against inflation, and ultimately, of course, we want to succeed with real estate. And just as kind of a unique selling proposition, or why do I think you should do business for us, what am I proud about our business? We recognize the importance of building solid business relationships through trust and an attitude of giving. So you're going to find that to be your experience doing business with us. We take genuine interest in the needs of other people. And we understand our business revolves around serving the folks we work with, because if you're not happy, then we don't do more business. So just so you understand me and my business philosophy, that's how we do it. And at the end of the presentation, you're going to get my contact information. You're going to find, as you communicate with me, you're going to find these things to be true. That's just how we operate. I really, really value my network and referrals, so that plays into that business philosophy as well. So before I talk about real estate that's available specifically to you and the kind of returns you can make, I just want to rewind to what I'm going to call the American retirement crisis, because I've read about it in the media and that's what everyone seems to refer to it as. If you'll jog back in your memory to 2008, I think everybody remembers the market crash that occurred. But there's also many, many other things combined, many other factors combined that have kind of changed the face of American retirement. And so I've listed for you here all these factors that play into this crisis I think we're going to. And by being on this webinar today, you're probably already aware of these things, so I won't spend a lot of time on it. I just want to reiterate for you that by looking into a self-directed account, or by having one, and by looking into real estate investment, I encourage you, because I think you're doing the right thing. This is what I'm doing personally. It's what Brian's doing personally, because we understand there's a change in the face of American retirement, and we have to do things differently than we used to. I want you to see through this graphic that our income does shrink with our age, and quite considerably. If you look at the different age groups there, and it's got them separated by married couples and non-married people, but just take a look at that from age 65 to age 80. And we know that healthcare is improving, right? And we're living longer in America. Take a look at how income drops off. I don't think that's how it should be. And for me personally, when I'm planning into my retirement and towards the ending chapters of life, I want to enjoy that time and have more financial resources. So when I see this chart that shows how my income shrinks with age, I get really concerned. And we can attribute that to a couple of things. I want you to take a look at the sources of income here that we depend on in America. And this is fairly recent. This is information from the Social Security Administration I got from their 2010 records. But take a look at that pie there, and the pieces of the pie are represented by Social Security and pensions. And you can see the Social Security makes up almost 40% of our source of income after age 65, and pensions almost 19%. That's what we're depending on. I think everybody on the webinar today understands that pensions from employers are going away, or they're being significantly cut back. And I think we all understand that Social Security as a system is in great danger. Earnings makes up about 30% of that. Earnings, it being assumed that we're working for that money. So when you remove Social Security and pensions, which I just talked about and said that we know that the face of retirement is changing in regards to those two sources of income, well, Americans are trying to make up the difference with more earnings, which means people are working longer. I want you to take a look at that category called asset income that makes up about 11% of the pie. And I'm going to come back to that when we start talking about real estate. But as I said, look at since 1991 to 2011, how many workers in America are expecting to retire after age 65? How many are working longer? Back in 1991, roughly 10% of our population was expecting they might retire after 65. Now, well, actually 2 years ago in 2011, we're almost up to 40% of our population is expecting to have to work that long. Folks, I don't want to retire that way. I don't want to retire working, and I don't think you do either. I think we'd rather build our wealth and have passive and residual income we can live off of, which is why we're on the webinar today. But I just wanted to show you that to verify for you that this is a real problem in America, and we're going to have to change the way we plan for retirement if we want the situation to change. And there's just a quick stat for you that the majority of workers in America, and again, this is from 2012, this is just last year, 56% of workers in America expect they're going to have to work past age 65 or they're not going to be able to retire at all. So when we address that problem and look at what the solutions are, it's been found there's three big things. Having a guaranteed stream of income, or I'm going to use the word reliable stream of income because it's hard to guarantee much in life, but a reliable stream of income, sufficient savings, and assets that you're able to liquidate. Keep those three things in mind. You want a reliable stream of income, sufficient savings, and assets that you can liquidate. Here's the paradigm that we have operated under in this country for a long time. We're going to work hard for most of our lives. We're going to save hard, and then it'll be there for us later, right? We stack it up and we build this nest egg. And well, unfortunately, just working hard and saving money doesn't quite cut it anymore. I want to throw a new paradigm in front of you, and this flies in the face of conventional knowledge, but I think you being on today's webinar would indicate that you understand out-of-the-box thinking is called for here. What if you could earn more but work less? What if you didn't have to work so hard? What if you could set up a reliable stream of income that allowed you to achieve the dreams that you have in your vision for retirement? And I don't think I have to guess very hard that anybody that's on the webinar today, your vision of retirement doesn't involve working more, and it doesn't involve earning less. It should involve more a vision of prosperity, having free time, time to be with family, time to travel. I know that's what I want in my retirement, and I don't think it's a long shot to guess that that's what most of you want. And so I'm going to suggest to you the solution to that. Income-producing real estate is probably one of the best, if not the single best ways to achieve that vision of retirement. And remember the three things that I just talked about a few slides back, that it's critical to have a reliable stream of income, that you have sufficient savings and assets that you can liquidate. Well, real estate answers all three of those. It solves all three of those. Real estate that produces income every month, rental real estate, gives you that reliable stream of income. And with that reliable stream of income that you don't work for, if you have enough of it, you're able to save money back. And then you have an asset on your hands that you're able to liquidate. There's always going to be people that need a roof over their head. Now, in case you were concerned that I might be a little off base, I just want you to take a look at some of these news clippings, and these are from as recent as 2012. I put this presentation together at the beginning of the year, so I don't have any from 2013, but take a look at the fact that foreign buyers all across the world see the opportunity there is in U.S. real estate right now, and they're snatching it up. They're buying up properties as fast as they can get their hands on them. And if you read the Wall Street Journal or the USA Today or the New York Times, you've also been reading that hedge funds here in America are buying up real estate as fast as they can get their hands on it. Well, that's because there's an opportunity right now. And I don't think individual investors should miss that opportunity. So I just wanted to point that out to you. Now I'm going to talk about two markets today that Make It Move Properties has vendors of income-producing property in. We have contacts all across the country, but I'm going to put two markets in front of you today specifically because we have limited time. And both of these markets are Midwestern markets where stability is key, taxes are low, expenses are low, and you can enjoy steady, reliable returns with real estate that's not going to have those wild swings in value like you do in some of the other areas of the U.S. So Indianapolis is one of the first markets I wanted to show you, and here's why. Indianapolis has been a #1 ranked market for investors several times over. If you read Wall Street Journal or Forbes, every once in a while they come out with those annual reports. Indianapolis is a top-ranked market for real estate investors. They've had stable 36% population growth since 1989, and just the theme there being that population growth in Indianapolis is steady. It's also a great place to relocate to with its central location. It's a transportation hub. That means there's going to be jobs there. And unemployment is consistently low. They have stable property values. And the price-to-rent ratio is favorable in Indianapolis as well. So let me give you a couple examples of properties. And first, let me just say, I'm not a realtor. Nobody at my company is licensed real estate agents. We're not going to advertise specific properties. We're not going to perform any services that would require a real estate license. What we're going to do is show you examples of properties that would be available in these markets. Then we're going to, if you want to invest, connect you with the people in those markets that will sell you the properties, the vendors. So we connect people. We don't sell properties. Here's example one, and this is a property that one of our vendors had that's already sold, but this property sold for $69,500. You can see the stats on the property there. The net operating income on the property was a little over $7,500 a year, and you can see it was an 11% cap rate. What that means is if you bought the property cash, that's a ratio of the net operating income there divided by the purchase price. So let me ask you, if you've got a self-directed account that is either tax-deferred or even better, tax-free, like an IRA, and you can make 11% a year tax-free while you hold an asset that you can cash out whenever you want to, and you're making income off that property that you're not working for. Would that sound like a good deal to you? Because that's what this property could do. Here's a second example for you. This is a little bit lower income area, so the risk of investment goes up a little bit, but so does the return. The price goes down. You can see the selling price on this one was almost $42,000, not quite $42,000, and the cap rate was 15%. So a 15% a year return, tax-free. Picture that in your IRA. And as the real estate market recovers and property values appreciate, it's likely you're going to have equity when you purchase the property because these are off-market, so you're already buying into equity. But not only that, as the market appreciates, you're going to be able to sell higher. Now let me just talk about another market real quick, Kansas City. This is my local market where I'm at, and I'm currently actively buying properties and building my own cash flow portfolio. I wanted to tell you a little bit about our fair city here in the Midwest. Kansas City has been rated third best in the U.S. for real estate investors. Also one of the top places to relocate to, and as you can see, we've had stable property appreciation over the years. Of course, when the market tumbled, the real estate market tumbled at the bubble burst, we did see a decline here too, but it wasn't one of those wild swings like what was seen in some of the other regions of the U.S. We've got several Fortune 500 companies here. We do have a strong rental market in Kansas City, and the cash flow is very strong too because of low tax rates and low insurance rates. I'm going to give you two examples from the local market here in Kansas City as well. Price point on this house was $52,000, and this property had a 10.6% return. You can see by the picture, by all the pictures I've been showing you of these example properties, the vendors that we do business with take very good care to ensure that you're getting a solid investment in good properties. And actually, in a few minutes here, I do have some questions that I can address that I've kind of anticipated that you might have. Brian, are you still on with me?
I am. I was just had to take my mute button off there for a second.
Sure. I just want to address that because I think that may be a question that has come up for some folks. How do I know I'm getting a solid investment? Because I'm gonna make the assumption we have people from all over the country on the line today. They may be remote investors, and so I just want to address that question that I think people would have. Our vendors have been in business for years, and they want to stay in business for years to come, just as my company does. And so we recognize there's a value and an importance there on brand reputation. The real estate community, even around the country, is quite small. We understand that word gets around. So if you do good business, you're going to have lots of customers. And if you don't do good business, you won't stay in business. Also, let me make it clear to anybody that would contact us and would be interested to plug into any investment market that we offer, there's going to be references available for you. So any one of our vendors, they'll have plenty of references for you of investors they've sold to who are happy with the product they got. So
Adam,
let me move on to a second. Yes, go ahead, sir.
We do have a question here. This is from John asking about property management. Do you guys have people that handle this, or does the client supposed to handle this themselves, or what are their options?
Sure. Oh, let me address that. I used the term turnkey earlier. And what we truly mean is these properties are truly turnkey. When the investor purchases them, there is a management company in place. The properties are managed and maintained. And these will be by local qualified management teams who are doing business and have service agreements with these turnkey vendors. In other words, they've got it down to a system. So yes, management is handled.
And if anybody else has questions, feel free to write it in the question box or, better yet, in the chat box.
And moving on real quick, here's a second example of a property in Kansas City. This one sold at $48,500, and the annual return on it was 13.5%. So, and also I just want you to take a look there at the insurance and taxes. You can see just how low they are per year. There are some other markets across the country that we are plugged into. We have vendors in Atlanta and in Dallas, which are some pretty hot markets that you've probably heard of. Also in Louisville and Memphis. And I've simply put pictures up here and given these as examples. But folks, we have connections all over the country. If there's a market you're interested in, we we probably are plugged in, or if not, can get you plugged in. But in conclusion, in discussing cash flow real estate, here's my conclusion. This is the vision. I personally want to live the life that I want in my retirement. That's why I'm planning in this direction. That's why I'm buying a portfolio of cash flow properties. And I want that for everybody. I want to share that with as many people as I possibly can. And so that's why we're in business doing what we do. I really believe in cash flow real estate as a tax-advantaged answer to that, and one that requires minimal input as far as work, because you can truly develop a passive income stream through rental properties. And also, as icing on the cake, real estate over time tends to be very forgiving, in that it does tend to appreciate over long periods of time. So I think for those reasons, it's one of the best solutions to getting to that goal that you have for your retirement plan. And I just want to say a special thanks, Brian, to you and to AccuPlan for letting us be a part of today's webinar. I've really enjoyed that opportunity. I hope that folks that were on the webinar today are interested in the opportunities that we have for them, and certainly I'm happy to endorse you guys in AccuPlan as well. Brian and I, we've been in contact here for what's it been, probably not quite a year yet, but your company has a good name. I'm finding that as I come across folks.
I greatly appreciate it. Yeah, I've been greatly appreciative. You've shown some great educational material, and for everybody, here's Adam's contact information. Let's make it Smooth Properties.
Thank you, guys.
I have one more question for you here, Adam. Is financing available for my IRA? And Adam, what you're speaking to, do you have non-recourse lenders that you work with specifically? Otherwise, I know some non-recourse lenders if people have questions about that for their IRAs.
Some of our vendors do offer financing through their company. As far as it being non-recourse or not, that would be a case-by-case. You'd have to speak with them directly and ask. I'm glad to hear you've got some connections, Brian. I will say most of our vendors do require a cash purchase, but some do have financing, especially if you're willing to purchase a package of properties as opposed to what they call one-offs or one at a time. So just depending on how much you're wanting to invest, that is an option that's available in some markets, yes.
Great. I have one more question. It looks like it's for me. Brian, tell me a little bit more about the business trust. I'm familiar with the LLC model for the checkbook IRA. So yeah, I'll go ahead and answer that. So we've been seeing a lot, especially here, all across the country, people wanting these checkbook IRAs so they can have the full control of their retirement plan, so they can go maybe to an auction or something like that where they can make the transaction accordingly, as opposed to having to wait for the custodian to do so, which kind of kicks you out of doing it through an auction. So the checkbook IRAs become very popular. Well, a lot of people might be doing business in multiple states, and in California specifically, there's some huge fees for doing business in California. The California Franchise Tax Board charges $800 a year plus a gross receipts tax. So if you're doing a big amount of business, it's off your gross receipts, not off your net receipts, and so that could pop up even larger. So the business trust, being a federal entity, has come into play here, and a local attorney here in San Diego helped develop this kind of product here. And it's great for the checkbook IRA, as it allows, it's an entity, so you can go get a checkbook account at your local bank for your IRA that you're a trustee of, and you can go make these purchases without having to worry about paying the franchise tax fees. It doesn't have the same level of asset protection as an LLC, but we kind of make that moot by not having anything left over in the IRA, because that's where the liability could possibly be. So that's the last question I have. Adam, do you have any questions for me?
I don't think so. I think we're good. Thank you.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for being on the call. And again, if somebody wants a copy of today's webinar, it has been recorded, and we'll be able to email that to you as early as the end of the day today. So with that, I want to thank everybody for taking the time out of their day. I want to thank you, Adam, for joining me on this educational webinar about buying real estate with your IRA and showing us these different markets across the country that you have access to. So thank you.